Pod Candy,
a podcast about cults, crimes, and killers.
This is our best of the episodes you love most. Enjoy!
Outside my window, it's only raining. When the wind blows, I feel pain. I don't need no doctor, baby, I'm not sick. My body's been locked up, heartbroken ever since.
Imagine thinking you found the love of your life, a handsome cardiologist, kind, attentive, and deeply connected to your world, only to find out nearly a decade later, he never existed. That's what happened to Kirat Asi, a radio host from London who was drawn into one of the most elaborate and disturbing catfishing schemes ever uncovered in the UK.
And it's all unraveled in the documentary Sweet Bobby on Netflix.
I have the chills thinking about it. For 9 years, this poor woman was seeking, it's very important in the culture, in Indian culture, marriage and family and all these, and her parents are lovely, and they just wanted her to be happy. And she was in a long-term relationship before, and then this thing starts happening. This thing starts creeping in where she sees Bobby at a bar because Bobby exists.
This is Kirat. So the story is about, so it's Kirat who is giving away the best years of her life because of this man who is a real person who she has seen in a club after they've been kind of talking back and forth for 3 months. So it all seems realistic, only to find out that for 9 years, she has been communicating with her cousin, Simran, who creates 64 other profiles and people. I mean, this is a full-time, think about this, Stacey. You run a theater show. We were just talking, like, we have a lot of stuff going on in our lives, yes, right? Like, you're
all the time.
Mom, you've got your business. I have to work. I've got a foster dog. Where does one find time to sleep with the phone on all night long, to maybe text in the middle of the night something to your beloved that you really have never had a personal conversation with ever?
The issue with Simran is like, she's got to be sociopathic and borderline.
Yeah, what does she get out of it?
Like, she's even psychopathic. A rush of it's. I think it's similar to when people are making a phony phone call or, steal something. It's like a rush of adrenaline of this thing I'm doing. And oh my God, I'm getting so good at it. I think Simran believed it. I think there was a part of Simran that somehow thought she was doing something good. I mean,
that is true, because in the doc, they do say that I think that she and Kirith had like a separate, discussion, obviously, personally after all this happened.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that she had told her, I thought, I was kind of helping you because, you probably had the relationship before that you knew wasn't going to work. And then, but that's delusion to me. That is complete and utter delusion.
Yes.
To create, Kira was like online talking to made up people about Bobby constantly and having intimate moments
That was what I was
with,
going to catch.
yes, well,
With her cousin.
With her cousin, not Bobby, and that's disgusting.
I want to hear from you, John, a doctor. What is Simran's personality disorder? What is her issue?
All right.
What is her psychological problem?
That brings up a good note for all of our episodes. Per the ethics in my field, I can't diagnose her over the media, but I can give some hints and some ideas. And they're just speculation, everyone in the audience.
Mhm.
This is not an official diagnosis because that would be unethical. But
Correct.
You both hit it on the head. You both threw out some terms which I think are certainly in the ballpark of what Simran is dealing with. Is she sociopathic? Yeah, probably. I underline probably. Borderline? Maybe. That's a very, by the way, serious mental illness. It's not just something to throw out.
Oh no, did I throw out something bad? I've read about
it's
all
fine. No, it's fine. I mean, I think it's in
some of the
in the ballpark
characteristics
of what could be going on with this young lady. But I also think you have, again, going into this larger context of these people, the other thing that really hit me was first of all, like we've said many times, they're beautiful people. They're also very wealthy people. I started to say that I know people in the Sikh community, and I also know I have a friend who was from not only the Sikh community, the Sikh culture, religion, but also from Africa. And these are very wealthy Indian people. And look at all the leisure time that these people have. And none of us have the time to be catfishing somebody to the extent that Simran did to Kirat, and Kirat to spend the time obsessed with this Bobby. So that's one thing you have to keep in mind with these people. Back to Simran, is she mentally disturbed? Probably. Again, everyone, probably. I'm not diagnosing, but also look at the thrills that a kid would get out of this. I have to share a personal story. When I was probably in middle school, I had a friend whose mother worked for the phone company. And so she got unlimited phone time.
You're such a boomer.
Yeah, right.
Kidding.
And we would
keep going.
We would get a kick out of making crank phone calls, to people. We would spend hours making crank phone calls, delivering pizzas to the neighbor next door and seeing 5 pizzas delivered. Maybe I shouldn't be saying this on a broadcast. We even called up, well before I had the idea of becoming a psychologist, we even called up a psychiatric hospital and tried to get my friend committed. We were like, 11 years old, 12 years old.
That's so funny. That's so ironic.
Right. But look at the similarities to this Simran. Is she getting incredible kicks out of this? And you also hit on something, Stacey, I think it was you talked about the sexuality, that Kirat didn't want to talk about, but my ears perked up and I wondered, I could just picture Simran saying all these sexual conversations with Kirat and kind of getting off on it, and maybe there was more of that went on than we know of. And it would be interesting if, we knew what the nature of that was. So
I really wanted, because I can only imagine what it was to keep her for 9 years. There's got to be, it's just gross that this woman did this to Kirat, it's just gross. To put her in that position. And then she still felt okay.
We haven't talked about, and I agree with you. I have to preface what I'm saying here by saying I agree with you when you talked about Kirat, and she's admirable woman, and she's going after this, and not, I totally agree. But let's talk about her a little bit.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, Doctor, about
what happened to her. What's wrong?
Because how does one keep moving on after having this 9-year chunk of life invested and be embarrassed by it as well? I mean, there has to be embarrassment too.
Oh, absolutely. Especially to family members. Oh, when are we going to meet Bob? Well, that came up a lot. When are we going to meet Bobby? Can you bring Bobby to this get together, etc.? What would make a person hang in there 10 years? And I think, again, we have to look at the cultural context of what I talked about before about the pressures to have a person, to get married, etc. But also we have to look at the Sikh religion, is that the Sikh religion values honesty and values and truthfulness. So there's an element that Kirat fell into, think, well, he's a Sikh, and we all are honest and we're truthful to each other, and so I can trust him. I can believe, that everything he's saying. So that's another thing we have to take a look at.
Today we're talking about Surviving Ohio State, the documentary that chronicles the abuse committed by Dr. Richard Strauss and the decades of silence and inaction from Ohio State University.
This is one of the largest sexual abuse scandals in U.S. history. Over 300 male athletes were victimized. The documentary doesn't sensationalize it. It lets the survivors speak. And what they say is devastating. First of all, I love all these guys. They're all just fantastic men. And, I'm sending my kid to college in a couple weeks. You send your kid to college, and especially if they're an athlete. My son is not an athlete, but especially if they're an athlete, you send them there and you're like, they're going to be taken care of. Like, you don't in your mind think, oh, they're going to be abused or assaulted or, you don't think about that. You trust doctors. You trust who's in the exam room. And these were children who didn't know what was happening to them was wrong. And when they felt uncomfortable and they brought it up to Russ, the main coach was Russ and the assistant coach, Jim Jordan.
Who was in Congress, Jim Jordan.
Who was in Congress. And, if you watch this documentary, you'll be infuriated when you see that at first they bring Russ in and the men finally get a hold of him and he supports them. He says he's going to write a letter to the university supporting them. And then Jim Jordan gets a hold of him, doesn't want, he lies, and Jim knew. I mean, I've watched it twice. He knew. Everyone knew, as these men.
He made the comment to the referee guy, oh, that's just Strauss. When a doctor was masturbating in a shower and he's watching all in their locker rooms of all these Ohio State sports, men's sports. He has a locker in every single one of their locker rooms.
This guy was a predator, and he was a sociopath, and I think a psychopath, and he was a demon. These guys were talking, he was leaning in, they could feel his breath on their genitals. They could see the top of his head. They were so confused. The guy comes in with a foot problem and the guy's examining his penis. I mean,
yeah, there was always a full body exam.
But another aspect of this that you didn't bring up, and I want to bring up, look at how he chose these victims. They made a point in the documentary that, there was a lot of athletes that didn't get abused, but he was careful to choose who. Kids that were very, very successful, and I'll get to that in a second, how that buffers you from a lot of things. And they were usually from rural backgrounds, simple backgrounds. So they didn't have the life experience, let's say, like an urban athlete would have, who is more, pardon the expression, exposed to these kinds of issues as they grow up in a more urban atmosphere. So the choice of victims was very interesting. And so a lot of our audience is going to ask, why did these kids fall for this? Because as an athlete, especially when you're a good athlete, and again, I've experienced some of this in my own life, you're really buffered from a lot of life and reality, um, you're so concentrated on your sport and being good at your sport and excelling. You're not partying like the other kids. You're not drinking necessarily. You're not participating in sex orgies or a lot of the things that adolescent males get involved in. You're concentrating on your sport. So you don't realize these things. I, for example, as growing up as an athlete, I never drank. I didn't hang around people that drank. I had no interest in drinking. So all that teenage, let's get a six pack of beer for the weekend kind of thing, incredulous to me.
Dr. John, I don't, well, and correct me if I'm wrong. I, even in an urban setting, like, or people who grew up in a more urban setting aren't going to be necessarily like around people, like masturbating in front of them and manipulating them. And, I think that a lot of this is that the men or the boys questioned their own sexuality as well, and that's why a lot of them didn't speak up. And I understand you're talking about like who he kind of targeted and who he didn't target, but I said before, I think a lot of it also was about those that, like you had said too, that maybe don't, we talked about like don't have the money. Like they just didn't have, they relied on scholarships. So he kind of went after those that were in a like almost a powerless type of situation. Yes, they were fantastic wrestlers or fantastic fencers or whatnot, but he still, like, he did it, like you said, there were like thousands of people that he possibly did this to.
You're exactly right. It's what we don't realize is the sheltering of these young men. And again, whether urban or rural environment. And like I was saying in my story, I grew up in the inner city of Chicago. And yeah, I was sheltered from a lot of things because I was an athlete.
Today, we're diving into one of the most unsettling and enduring mysteries of the last few decades, the disappearance of Amy Lynn Bradley.
Amy was a 23-year-old from Virginia who vanished while on a Caribbean cruise with her family in 1998. One moment she was sitting on the balcony outside her cabin, and then she was gone.
What makes Amy's case especially chilling is the number of alleged sightings in the years after she disappeared. People claim to have seen her in tourist areas, in bars, and even in situations suggesting human trafficking.
In terms of the crime and the story, I think it really compels us to have an episode where we're all detectives here. We're all like detectives. What the heck happened here with this young lady? The other thing I want to say in my opening remarks is this is sad. This is really a sad story.
Really sad.
This reminds us of the episode on the catfishing. That woman that was strung along for so many years with that guy. I forget what episode.
Bobby.
Sweet Bobby.
Yeah. Sweet Bobby.
Sweet Bob. I love that woman, and I felt so bad for her.
And this brought those same emotions to me. It's like this is
it's sad. These people's lives have been hijacked by this thing that they can't figure out.
Exactly.
Sucks.
And I'm sad for Amy because let me jump in. I think she's still alive.
What?
I think she's still alive.
This is so exciting. Why? Tell us. Tell us.
I think, like Dori was pointing out, the evidence, people have seen her, and these are pretty convincing eyewitness accounts. The fellow walking along the beach who, was face to face with her in, I think it was Barbados or something like that, and describes the guy she was with that could have been this yellow, which for our audience, this is the musician she kind of bonded with, I'm saying that politely, bonded with during the cruise. And so I also agree with Dori that that guy's got some connection with possibly the trafficking. I think the cautionary tale for our audience is that she made a dire mistake by following this guy. I think she was sold into human trafficking. I think that's where the story goes. I think she's still alive. I have a couple of interesting side notes in terms of that. If you do the math, she's well into her 50s at this point. And in my experience on the cases in human trafficking that I've dealt with, either these women are used up until they're not, their beauty goes, their attractiveness goes, and they can't be used as escorts and prostitutes, etc. So they're either killed or they're just, discarded. So why is she still in captivity? That's a question I have. And then also, both of you didn't bring up a little tidbit that was very interesting. When she was in that bathroom, she was observed in that bathroom by that woman. Her captors mentioned something about you'll get to see the kids. And she became happy. But I think that, okay, there's no question in my mind. Here's what goes along with my theory of human trafficking. These people do not use birth control. These people do not protect these women, and the women can't have the resources to protect themselves. I think she got probably pregnant a couple of times. And that's another hook keeping her in this whole culture of human trafficking.
What about, though, the fact that she was gay? And if your theory is that she wanted to go, like, check this out with, Yellow.
Alistair?
And Alistair, like, what do you think about the fact, because that would be horrendous. That's just another layer, I guess, if this is your theory, and she's put into this trafficking, that she does not find men sexually attractive, that she was gay.
It doesn't matter to the human traffickers. They force them into the situations that they're in. Think about the conversation in the bathroom that was overheard. And again, for our audience, the words were, you better do this tonight. You better be ready. Don't you run away, and we'll pick you up afterwards. These women are forced to do what they do. I mean, come on. Even a heterosexual woman, why would you want to, be having sex with some, pot-bellied, bald, ugly...
that was my last boyfriend. Just kidding.
No comment.
No, wait, John, how long, do you know how long women stay in the trafficking? I mean, could she get away now if she's in her 50s, or like, do they keep people on for 25 years?
Well, typically not. That's my point. There's some other hooks going on here. Did she have a couple of children with maybe one of the main characters that are involved? And so they're domesticating together, and having a little life together. And so she's hooked in that way, meaning that the father of these children is demanding that she stay, even though in terms of a sexual slave, she's no good anymore. They discard these women. Their longevity in this captivity that they have is about as much as a professional athlete. It's
right. That's what I mean. It's like you only get these many
beauty
years,
or you can't for some reason perform.
You can't dance anymore.
Boom. Yeah, you're done. They discard them, and they often kill them, by the way. Another thing about this whole she's still alive theory, I think it's more than theory. Again, if I was called in as the expert on this case, I would say she's still alive. And I got some suggestions of how to find her, by the way.
Oh, yes. This is juicy.
I want to hear these theories of Like what are all your theory? John, you mentioned that you have these theories
Yeah, and also
What do you
like
mean?
that
what
you
you
can
would
help,
Ways
do, how you
to
can help the
find her?
FBI.
Well,
that you
here's
can
Yeah.
help.
here's what
Yeah.
puzzles me. If this family would have called me into the case, I would have said, forget the FBI. The FBI doesn't have any jurisdiction here. I mean, fine, they have some resources and but if you noticed in the whole documentary, and these were wonderful people. I work with these people, not these specific ones in the documentary, but they're good people. And I'm not saying anything against the agents that were in the documentary, but they were really helpless. I mean, they were
Yeah, they
handcuffed
were.
at so many things. Why didn't the family get an excellent private detective and the money that they've outlaid to try to find her, put it into, a top-notch private detective? These people exist. They're not just in movies. And this person would find her. And the other agency that's out there, and again, this is real, this is not just movies or novels. There's an agency called Interpol, which is an
Hmm.
international FBI type law enforcement agency for which has jurisdiction throughout the whole world. Why weren't they brought in?
What's
And
going on? Is there a cover up?
yeah, and why aren't an agency like that doing more against this human trafficking? It's a huge thing. It's a very sickening, huge crime that's happening in the world, and I don't see anything really being done at these levels to help these women that are
Yeah.
being kidnapped and forced into this sexual slavery.
In Unknown Number High School Catfish on Netflix, one of the most surprising stories isn't about teenagers pretending to be someone else.
The fake profile at the center of this case was created by someone much closer and far more unexpected than anyone realized.
What started out as casual online messages grew into a complicated web of lies and manipulation, leaving real emotional consequences for the students involved.
These are children that are 13, 14, 15 years old in this very small town in Michigan, 30 people in their class, and one day the documentary centers around this girl named Lauren and her boyfriend Owen, who have grown up with each other. They've known each other for years. They date, but again, 30 people in their class. So, like, everybody knows each other. And they start getting these texts to both of them that are, as Stacey mentioned, like they sound like a kid, but they are vile. They are extremely sexually explicit. I mean, we're gonna say some words here, but it's literally like, what is the one? Like, my fingers in your pussy. Like, it's like disgusting kind of stuff. Plus, they start as the texts go on, they start talking about killing the kids. Like, you should kill yourself. And obviously, when we bring the doctor out, I know he's going to have a lot of. I think we're both going to have a lot of questions for him because of the psyche of somebody that can do this. Let's just reveal, after years of looking to see who is doing this to the kids, after bringing in the FBI. This went on for like 2 years. After bringing in the FBI, it turns out it is the girl, Lauren's mother.
Yep.
The mother
Her
is
mother.
doing this.
Bum,
Texting.
bum,
Bum, bum, bum.
Why at the beginning when this started, why didn't these parents take these phones away and say, you know what? You're 13 years of age. We're giving you the privilege of these phones, but this is so crazy. We're not just shutting them down like they did at some point, but just literally, you can't have a phone. That's what will stop this. Take the phone away. Don't what I don't know what you think about that is
Well, I don't think that that mother wanted her to get her phone taken away because that would have taken away her fun.
right.
I
Right.
mean, not that she was having fun. I mean, she was obviously tormented. But how does somebody continue this on and see their child in so much pain unless they're really in what is the psychological situation?
Well, this clearly is a very disturbed woman, and I don't know if you want me to reveal at this early stage of our
Good point.
broadcast here what I think is the key, which the documentary missed. That, as Dory pointed out, the superintendent, who I agree was kind of a, publicity hound. He came
Yeah.
up with this cyber Munchausen. So, oh, that's clever. Yeah, and it goes a little bit deeper than that. Sure, there's Munchausen aspects to this, but a Munchausen's mom would have brought Lauren or Lo into psychiatric treatment and bring her in for evaluations. This is what Munchausen people do. They dawdle over the child and love the medical attention and the professional attention that the child is getting. So I think this goes much deeper than that. But I'm going to reserve that for a little bit because I think that's a more dramatic analysis. But this mom is very, very sick, and I think I have the genesis, or what we call etiology, of what happened to her, that she turned this way.
I think, John, you were, kind of teasing what you think about Kendra, but I think this is a good time just to like tell us, like, what type of a person is this who can do this for that long to their child? They live in a small community. To me, and I'm, like, I don't know what the diagnosis is. I would just say she's nuts.
Yeah, well, that's a clinical term that I often use. uh, yeah, well, I'm really proud of our broadcasts because we really can dig deep and get behind what's happening here. And here we go. A very small, or very, what should I say, quick statement was made by Kendra after the whole thing was revealed. And in fact, she was out of prison. She talked about being raped at 17. So to remind the audience, Kendra, the mom, was raped when she was 17 years of age. When she said that, I was looking at her face and her expression. That was where the damage was done. Is she was raped, she was, victimized. It could have been brutal. I would have loved, again, here we are, uh, criticizing the documentary, but I would have loved if they went into, how brutally she was raped. I got a feeling that she was brutally raped at 17, which leads to what? I think she hated men. I think she hates men. When her daughter gets involved at like middle school with Owen, and remember they were called the golden couple because they're so cute. Both athletes, good students. They were the golden couple at the Beale High School, I think it was, or middle school. I think that anger and rage against men came out. The other little tidbit that gave me evidence was when she talked about getting pregnant. And if you recall how she talked about getting pregnant, well, when you don't have much in your life, and I think she even said something to the effect, and may help me here, like, I'm kind of, there's no love and affection in my marriage, I'm paraphrasing, but, and then I get this wonderful gift of a child, etc. So that means, again, let's go back to the rape. So this was not a marital relationship that was loving and could repair what happened to her from a man. And I think the epicenter of what's going on here is that she didn't want her daughter to have any involvement with a man, a guy, whether it be Owen, etc., because she was so angry at men, hates men, and that's her valence. And that's why the strength of it, that's why the, 40 some texts a day, etc., is that anger and rage against men.
Lauren's reaction, her demeanor throughout the whole documentary, and at the end where they disclose it is her mother doing it, and they obviously do a follow-up, after the whole thing went down. What do you think about how she reacted to everything?
I really thought both of you were taking my role away from these podcasts because I think you nailed it. We can talk about this Munchausen thing and debunk that, but I think you nailed the Stockholm syndrome. And you see this in kids. I have seen, some of the kids that I've treated who have horrendous parents and have been abused by parents. But then a couple of years after the epicenter of the abuse, I want to have a relationship with my mom or my dad, and because having a mom in my life is important, and I don't really know why, but I want to. And that comes from our socialization as people. We get, I think sometimes it's a myth. We get brainwashed that, well, it's important to have a mommy and daddy in your life, or Grammy and grandpa, and they might be the most horrible people in the whole world, abused you, scarred you for life. One of the things that I work with people on in therapy is that if a person doesn't add to your life, what do you really need them in your life for? This is not the way life should go. And I felt that for Lauren, is that, well, this is where she needs some treatment, some good treatment, is that, what does that look like to have this person in your life?
This is a story about a former child star, unresolved trauma, and what happens when fame never really lets go.
Today we're discussing Corey Feldman versus the World, a documentary on YouTube that follows Corey Feldman during a period of instability, isolation, and ongoing public scrutiny.
The film documents Feldman on tour with his band and the group of women he refers to as his angels. While the imagery can be jarring, the deeper focus of the documentary is a man shaped by early fame and long-term trauma, struggling to maintain control over his narrative and his life. Because of his fame and how famous he was from movies like Stand By Me, Goonies, and others, I mean, really big movies, big box office things, big child star fame. And he's a great actor, I have to say. I don't know how his acting is now, but when he was a kid, holy crap, that was a real actor that maybe could have been nurtured into a wonderful adult actor. But I think his trauma and his home life, which he says was abusive, and his father was sort of in and out of his life and sort of left his life because Corey didn't want him to manage him. So his father's like, well, if I can't manage you, I don't want to be your dad. Bye. And the mom was abusive. So he had a rough childhood.
Doctor,
we're gonna have to hear the green room door open up on these podcasts because I'm coming out right now.
I want to know what your baseline and like you watched, like this is an hour and a half documentary. I found it, I was riveted from beginning to end. I'm curious, like what your thoughts were about Mr. Feldman.
Well, first of all, like you said, Dori, I mean, I started watching this, and of all the things we've watched so far, my mouth was open. It was like, what is this? No, what the hell is this with these girls and these they look like thrift store costumes of angels. And as Stacey was saying, him with this gangsta hood over himself, but being tough, which I think psychologically says something, and maybe I'll get to that later.
Okay, good.
But
I want to
my
know.
mouth was open with this whole thing. And the thing I made a note of this. It took an hour and 10 minutes out of this documentary before I thought the hammer dropped. This whole time we're seeing this goofy performance, and I was waiting to hear you both comment on the performance because I'm not in the entertainment industry, and I'm going, this is
Well,
the stupidest thing I've ever seen in my life.
it's embarrassing. And you
Yeah.
could see by the venues. Like he
Yeah.
was at like a local bar.
I totally agree with Stacey saying the motivation here was to advance their career. Here's a major Hollywood star. He's starting this music group. You don't know how it's going to be like until you join it, and that was their motivation. But I just my assessment is these are not that bright individuals. Margot, who was the violin player.
Thank you
And
for the names. I
Oh yeah,
appreciate
the
it.
music director,
Sorry.
violin player.
She was the music
Yes.
director and
Yeah.
had musical talent. And she seemed to have her head on somewhat.
Yes.
But once you saw the costumes that you were going to wear and his performance, wouldn't you? You guys are in the entertainment industry. Wouldn't you bail?
Well,
Yeah, I
that's
thought it
what
was
I
satire.
said.
It looks like satire.
It was
Yeah.
a
Like-
joke, right? Like
It's a
that's
joke.
what I thought.
No,
Like
but
on
it's
the-
not a.
No, I know, because on the
I
Today
know.
Show, when he
Yes.
started this is what he got it went viral. So he's thinking, oh my gosh, we're an actual band. Like people want us to tour. They want it. Like I'm an actual artist of music. But everybody was laughing at it.
Yeah.
That's why it went viral.
Well,
Total disconnect.
Can I go back to my question? You both
Yes.
are artists and good at what you do. If you arrived at Corey Feldman's house and you saw in rehearsal what this was going to be like, and you looked around at the other people and then looked at these costumes that, were going to put you in skimpy outfits, would you run out of that house or would you stay?
The new me would not stay, would not go.
Yeah.
The old me would have gone, but I don't know
Yeah,
if I would have stayed.
Yeah, young Dory would have definitely gone for sure. But would I have, I'd probably, like I said, I would have been very nervous. I would have been anxious too and been but I would have had that in my head. Do I stay for this opportunity?
Right. Do I keep
Corey
trying, waiting it out?
Feldman? Yeah. Or do
Waiting it out.
or do I run away? I may have stayed for a little while.
I may have stayed too.
And if you want my shocking analysis now, or should I wait?
No,
No, I'm clamoring.
All right. You know what I thought of as about halfway in between this is that this is exactly like Charles Manson.
Wow.
Corey, the older Corey even looks like Charles Manson if you look at it.
Oh.
And Charles Manson had the same kind of organization, right? He had a bunch of women, a couple of guys, but mostly women who just, were there idolizing
Worked for him. Yeah.
And remember at some points in the documentary, he had this whole Jesus fantasy. So did Charles Manson. And another thing that Charlie Manson was broken about was that he envisioned himself as a songwriter, and the Beach Boys wouldn't play any of his songs. They rejected his songs, and that kind of broke him and got bizarre. And again, you have the Charles Manson kind of thread, the kind of mindset where I'm going to change the world. We're having a revolution here. I'm gonna, the whole thing with Corey. I'm gonna break up Hollywood with my, revelations. Who did Charles Manson kill? Hollywood stars.
Hollywood runs on access, or at least the appearance of access.
And that idea is at the center of Hollywood Hustler, Glitz, Glam, Scam, now streaming on Amazon Prime.
The documentary follows Zach Horowitz, an aspiring actor who wasn't breaking through in Hollywood.
Instead of success on screen, he built a different story, one that positioned him as a powerful industry insider.
Horowitz claimed he had exclusive foreign film distribution deals and strong connections to major studios and streaming platforms.
Netflix, Amazon, international buyers, names that sounded credible and discouraged questions. We have a Chicago connection with Zach because he opened a juice store probably like off of the Mag Mile. That was his first thing, where he opened with the inclination that the Starbucks dude, Howard Schwartz, is that his name, was investing money into a little rinky-dink juice bar where Zach was paying his friends six-figure incomes to run a small juice bar for 3 months. Scam.
It has to be maybe it was some money laundering. Like, what was that? Where was money running through there?
Like the
I'm not suggesting that. Just
like maybe like he did get money from his mother, right? And the stepfather. And he started funneling that as his first, those Ponzi schemes are, you have to always have more and more people buying into it for you to pay off Paul to pay Peter. So you're always bringing in lots of new investors.
Got to keep bringing it in. So when it goes out, you got to get more in.
I think my revelation on this, I'm sure you'll agree, is that why were these guys following him? But you got to go back to the scenes in the documentary with their college buddies and they're drinking and they're smoking pot and all this stuff and they T-shirts on. And if you look at them, they're all the same type of people, including Zach. So why did they believe in him? Why did they continue to hang with him when this stuff was going sour, etc.? They all share the same value system. Remember how we talk about serial killers and they have their own world view? This is the way I see the world. Well, it exists here with Zach Horowitz too. This is my world view. And this is a good time to point out another observation I had about this fellow and this type of fellow. And Dori, I think this will resonate with you. Just like murderers, it's always a progression, right? You start to do a little bit of things and kind of almost like if the audience could see me now, kind of with my eyes, lowered and, like a little ratty kind of look is like, did that work? Oh, okay. Now I'll add a little more. It's, if you remember from high school chemistry class, it's called titration. When you just take your little pipette and you put a little chemical in the thing. You mix it in the beaker and go, is that going to work? Okay, I'll add a little more. It's always a progression of permission. Whether it's a murderer, serial killer, or a scam artist like this Zach.
Why do you think I know Stacey probably has these questions, but like, why would somebody like a Zach Horowitz even want to be married and then he had kids? Like one would assume he knew this girl, his wife, from college. They were college sweethearts. Was there any truth to somebody like this?
Well, I think, first of all, that's an outstanding question. One that I didn't think of while
I didn't either, actually.
Watching the documentary. But I think I have an answer. It projects that
he's normal
perception of normality. And look at, I'm just a regular,
married guy with
upstanding kids. Guy with kids. And of all the people he was surrounded by, she was the best looking and the most normal.
She was beautiful.
A beautiful woman he marries.
Beautiful.
He's got great looking kids.
Adorable.
Where everybody around him was just kind of scummy looking and, kind of, unattractive in many ways.
But I think it's that sense of see, I'm just a normal guy, and I have normal values like everybody else. Hidden beneath is the real demon here. He's not.
I don't think he loved. I mean, I don't think there's. I mean, he might have said he loved her, but she was in love with him, his wife.
Yeah.
And
well, look at the life that he gave her. I mean, this girl from, as you point out, Santa Claus, or was it Christmas?
No, Santa Claus.
Santa Claus.
Where Santa Claus is from, I looked it up.
It's not Christmas, Ohio. It's Santa Claus, Indiana.
Yeah.
Is it innate? And I know you say the progression. Is it the people like my college roommate who I thought was a really nice person, and it turns out she's literally a low-level grifter? I just want to know if it's something that
it's inherent.
Where do they get it from? What is it? Is it that they so want money, or they get a taste of it and then they suddenly become so evil? Or they don't think they're doing a bad job. They think there were times when she would say to me, "I'm helping you. I helped you."
Oh,
and I was
God.
like, "What the fuck are you talking about? You took all my money."
Well, right. I think there's two things important to understand that's at play here. One is a possible mental illness in these people that they're sociopathic. They use people. They have no conscience about using people for their own gain. They don't follow social rules. We see that all over in this Zach Horowitz case here. Broke the rules of marriage and all kinds of rules that he broke socially, let alone monetarily. So that's one thing. There's a mental illness involved of sociopathic behavior. And the second thing is our society. We live in a very impulsive, greedy society, and capitalism is based on that. The money is. I hate
power.
to use. Yeah, I was going to hate to use that word because I don't believe that. I don't believe money is powerful. That doesn't impress me.
I guess it's an illusion.
Yeah, power is something. Power to me is someone who's intellectual, who's who's knowledgeable and who's a leader, not because they have a big
But in our
pocketbook.
country right now, it is very much power is money. Money.
Power is money.
Power.
If you grew up in the early 2000s, you probably remember Jared, the Subway guy, the college student who claimed he lost over 200 pounds just by eating Subway sandwiches and walking everywhere.
He became this unbelievably wholesome symbol. Subway's entire brand revolved around him. The success story, the friendly face of the company.
Commercials, talk shows, school events. He was everywhere. One of the most recognizable advertising campaigns in America.
Which is why the HBO Max documentary, Jared from Subway, Catching a Monster, is so disturbing. Because the man behind that image turned out to be a convicted child sex offender who was secretly exploiting minors.
The documentary shows how the investigation actually began with a radio journalist who started secretly recording conversations with him.
And those recordings revealed what he was really saying when he thought no one important was listening.
So what happened with Rochelle Herman, who is the radio talk show host, who suspected him of being a predator. And so they developed this relationship over the phone where he revealed all of this stuff to her. And she, by the way, beautiful radio voice, just the way she was talking to him with this kind of voice where, well, what kind of kids do you like the best, boys or girls? Do you like blondes? But also behind that, she was working undercover for the FBI and driving all this evidence back and forth to them.
So Rochelle, so essentially, to give a little bit of context. So Rochelle meets Jared at one of his public speaking events, and she was there to interview him. And right off the bat, he mentioned something about middle schoolers, right? That
yep.
There's and she's like, did I hear that correctly?
Her spidey senses were tingling.
Yeah, her spidey sense, exactly. And so she thinks, wait a second, I think that this guy is into young kids. I am going to start recording him. I'm going to start having these conversations with him and record him to see if I am right and to see what he cops to. So with all that, she has these two kids that she doesn't tell anything about this, that she's been like involved with this Jared Fogle really just to try to get him to confess that he wants to bang young children, and he does, and it ruins her relationship with her children. She's an FBI informant.
Tell us why he became this way. What happened to him?
Well, let's go back, and this is what, again, we see this so many times in the material that we analyze on these podcasts. There's no description of, well, what made this guy? And let's go back and look at him as a middle school person. He was, and I may be wrong here, close to 400 pounds as a middle school kid.
I think that's a little too much.
Was
but
that later?
Like as a kid, he did lose 200 pounds, but I think, he was close.
But that was when he was 20 or 19.
But he was a big kid. He was a very large,
huge, he was morbidly, we call it morbidly obese. Young man. Yes. And then when you saw the pictures of him, that was an unusual young man for his age. That's what I'm getting at. I don't know I qualified myself when I said I might get this wrong, but he was morbidly obese. And friends of his were interviewed on the documentary, friends of his at the time of middle school, etc., and said, he was really just like almost excluded. He was considered out of the mainstream because he was such a large kid. How do parents let a child get that sick? That's a sickness to be that obese. And I don't want to get into parents that are obsessively crazy about dieting and their children. We'll have another episode. I'm sure we'll have a case about parents who berate and nag their kids about weight. But this is neglect.
I think we had the Way Down. I think we did the Way Down where that was
our first one.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. But this is something. How can you watch your kid get that huge?
But he was so depressed, right? He was so depressed that his only friend was food.
And where's the chicken and the egg question here? Was he depressed because he was, overweight, or was he overweight because he was depressed? We don't know. But again, very important in the development of this young man. Now, what happens? He's excluded from the peer group. He's this huge anomaly for the kids his age, and kind of the sick animal of the pack, and people stay away from him. So what develops? What develops is two major things that our audience needs to know about. One is that you get angry. No question that anger develops. Anger. I'm pounding, there's an anger to his sexuality with kids. I didn't get this when I was a kid, and this is what I had to go through as a kid. So I'm going to pound, I'm just going to pound. He was hurting kids, and he knew it because of what he missed. This is my theory. The other thing is, when you are that excluded from the peer group and you're suffering from this sickness that he had, which was obesity, it's a disease, it's a sickness. You miss what we call developmental tasks or stages in development that you're supposed to go through. And one of them is sexuality at that age. You're learning and discovering about sexuality, and he doesn't go through normal sexuality development. And what happens? Voila, we have a pedophile created.
Oh,
but what
really?
the hell
What
is
about
mild
if it's your
pedophilia?
child?
Yeah, what's mild pedophilia when you're getting pounded
Yeah, and
Yeah.
what are the degrees of pedophilia? So now we have a quantified range of a quote unquote mild. Would you think mild pedophilia is literally going to schools, going to Thailand, going to New York, calling up escort services to try to get little children to your room to pound? Is that mild? Because if that's mild pedophilia, I don't even want to know what like high level pedophilia would be.
The answer is just like pregnancy. Is there a mild pregnancy? Is there a little bit pregnant? Are you a little bit pregnant?
Right.
No, you're pregnant. And the same thing with pedophiles. You're a pedophile. By the way, I want to slip in for audience information. One of the lowest success rates we have with disorders and crime is the rehabilitation of pedophiles.
Really?
Do you even
Very
believe
low.
that it can happen?
Very low. It's very rare that a pedophile gets truly rehabilitated.
So what does it mean when they're then registered? So if he gets out, he's a registered sex offender.
Yeah, he has to register.
Right. And then what does that mean to be a registered sex offender? What can he not do as a
Well, he's certainly not going to be a spokesperson for Jersey Mike's or some other sandwich
Maybe
place.
he will be for Jersey Mike's instead of Subway.
Yeah.
But what it means is that he has to register in any community he lives in, and that's public record. So, for example, if you're buying a house in the Cleveland Heights, Ohio, and you're looking at the neighborhood profile, you can see that a pedophile is registered and maybe living next door to you. And if you have a couple,
can he not go to certain things? Can he not like go to a school or can he just
has to
walk
be
around?
Right? Good point. There's a lot of rules for the registered pedophile sex offenders. One of them is you have to be a certain distance from school. Well, literally distance. It's quantified. It's like 20 feet from a school.
He can't see his own children. I mean, he's ruined his own children too.
Yeah.
Who had a dad and now they don't know what the hell's going on, I'm sure. I mean, he should not be able to, Josh Duggar is, when he gets out, which, he got a light sentence too, in my opinion, he's not allowed to be with his children alone. Yeah,
there'll be a lot of restrictions on this guy, and
I mean,
let's face it, his life is pretty much ruined. That's the other thing you have to think about in terms of sentences, both of you, is that we get angry, and I got angry at the fact that Jared got 15.8 years.
Yeah,
but he's going to suffer the rest of his life. His life is not going to be, to use your expression, kosher.
Why? What have you ever? Can I ask you a personal question? And it's not personal because I'm asking on the podcast. Have you ever worked with a pedophile and been successful in getting them healthy?
No, and I'll tell you why. The biggest reason is that I don't take pedophiles as for therapy cases. I can't deal with them. One of the things is the absolute baseline of being a good therapist is that you have to be objective. I can't be objective with a pedophile. I would want to stab them in my office because I have children. I can't have any objectivity over
Where is your line? Where is your line? So what is your line? Like pedophiles? No. Will you take on a murderer will you?
Yes.
I'll curious.
I'll take on, I deal with criminals in therapy all the time, particularly as an offshoot of my consultations that I do with law enforcement. Pedophiles, maybe the only one, and old people. I'm terrible with old people.
You can't take on my mother?
How old?
Oh, sorry.
My mother in her memory care facility. I would love for you to take on Jody Goldman, and now you're telling me you won't? Oh my God.
What is your oldest age that you'll take?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know if it's an age.
80?
Particular a case.
Since you're so young, Dr. John.
Yeah, 39.
Yeah, he's 35. Oh, 39. Okay.
39. Review some of our other tapes. 39. Yeah, I don't know. It's not necessarily a specific age, but I don't keep up with the research literature on geriatrics. I didn't really go through a lot of coursework in school on geriatrics, and I don't necessarily relate well to the geriatric people.
Shocking. Very shocking.
It's very upsetting. Just kidding. No, but that's I wanted to know because I think, what is the percentage of chance that somebody who's really motivated could oh my God, I just lost the word. Be rehabilitated as a pedophile?
Well, you said some keys there. Really motivated, really want to work at it. But that percentage is good.
Low.
But our overall percentage of dealing with pedophiles, it's less than 5%.
I mean, how would one even get that if that is such a driving force in your life, that is your attraction? And I get it that there are, you can maybe, I mean, there are a lot of men, probably some women, that are sex addicts, that are literally addicted to sex, whether it be a pornography addiction or just having sex with people. But like with children and really into child pornography and really into children, and I do think I absolutely believe it's because when he was younger and nobody liked him and nobody talked to him, that it's almost like that Michael Jackson type of thing where you want to, like, you're still maybe even in that childlike state. But
yeah, that's a good point.
But I couldn't even see somebody truly in their life shirking that if that has been their reality, like, for so long. I don't know. I'd have a hard time.
Dori, that's a great comment, because what happens to us mentally is we have scars. You have literally scars in your development that oftentimes cannot be healed. And for Jared, it's the scar of what he missed and that development. And also, anger is a big part. The documentary did not go into this. Again, our purpose here. The documentary going, but again, the language, pounding, and there was other language, and I can't think of it right now, but just showed the anger towards kids.
Well, and how many times have we seen, just like in Ed Gein, the mild-mannered ones? You never think that the one woman who worked on a commercial with Jared and was like, oh, he's so humble.
One who lost weight.
Yeah, he was so humble. And that seems to be a reoccurrence of a lot of people that are criminals like Jared, that they are the mild-mannered ones.
Also note that Hannah and Christian, they said so articulately, it's the ones you don't think about.
They said he was boring.
I think they said those exact words. They said it's the mild-mannered ones that you have to watch out for. The victims, these two wonderful people that were victims of this whole thing.
The daughters of Angela, the mother that wanted to have sex with her daughters, the daughters spoke in the documentary, and yes, are wonderful.
Yeah, they were just wonderful people, and they survived this.
Just got a call. I'm so sorry.
Well, we've got to wrap up anyway. I feel like I need to go take a shower anyway. This just all grosses me out so much.
I want to say one more thing. I know it's gross. I want to say one more thing. Can we, collectively as a society, stop worrying about ourselves and our reputations and our company's reputations and money, and stop defending people, stop giving them a pass, stop giving them immunity? This is disgusting, and it's so rampant now. I mean, every day I open my phone, and I'm seeing there's another fucking pedophile.
Can I say something? And I'm so glad.
I'm mad about it.
I'm so glad you opened this door, Stacey, because there's something you both said early on that I wanted to remark about it, and it's probably going to be controversial, but it's absolutely true. When we talked about that denial early on and why denial happens in our world about hurting kids, we still haven't progressed as a society, as a world where we value children. Children children are so neglected. It's so, it's almost like we don't care. And
It's
they're just
about the
objects.
birth of the child. It's about the birth and not about true child care.
Yeah, I mean, if you're really pro-life,
right,
then you are pro every child, and no matter what color their skin, whether they're an immigrant, whatever. But to say that you're pro-life and then abuse children is a complete oxymoron, and I'm sick of hearing about it with all of them. I mean, if you think about all these things we've covered, it's across the board.
Amen.
Yeah,
and it's in our Congress.
And you're right. I mean, I think Dori said it's about the birth. Oh, I'm a mother.
Yeah,
we can get into that. I would love to get into it in another episode where we talk about how these teenage kids in the ghetto. They get this secondary gain out of I'm a mom. Look at the little baby. It's like you're 14 years old and you have a child. What damage are you doing to that human, wonderful creature by bringing him into the world of it's going to be a mess? It's going to be what we see.
Well, and not only just financially poor areas, but also in religious cults as well. The making of young children having birth. And again, this is another tangent, so I don't want to go down the rabbit hole. But yes, so I think I do think we do a good job, and just our collective anger about all this and not following the money, I think is, said, is key.
It's all about money, and let's stop punishing the victims of the crimes.
Yeah.
We keep punishing and shaming victims, the Epstein victims, or even the Duggar victims. We shame them, we punish them, and even the religion themselves, they are more... they care more about protecting the pedophile and then blaming the other one because it's their fault. And this happens a lot. I've been reading about it constantly. Stop blaming the victims.
Look at in this story, the Rochelle. What was her last name? Rochelle?
Herman.
How her life was so damaged by doing something noble and right of trying to...
She's a victim.
Jared to justice, and her life was crushed. Her kids' life was crushed. And this is so important. And I want to get back to Stacey said this, that the whole idea of telling your children the truth. And I think this is a super lesson coming out of our podcast today for the audience. Mm-hmm. But let me amplify what Stacey said. If we don't tell kids the truth, what happens is they're left to their own mental devices. And often they create fantasies of what's going on. By fantasy, I mean their own fanciful notion of what's going on, their own explanation. Kids crave explanation. They want to know what's going on. So if you don't give them the facts, then they create they manufacture all these ideas. And you know what often happens? Is that they become the center of those notions. Meaning they blame themselves for what's happening. Yeah, I'm the one. And this happens in divorce cases all the time. It must be me. I must have caused this because my parents can't get along. And so that's an absolutely important point.
Are you proud of yourself for teaching me that lesson? You said that to me a lot.
Scratch my nails on my vest here.
I feel like we could do another hour of this, but I do have to go.
If you love our podcast, consider donating any amount to buymeacoffee.com/podcandy. Every bit helps us keep creating the true crime, cult, and pop culture stories you can't stop listening to.
So people can buy us a cup of coffee?
Thanks so much for listening. Our theme music is written and performed by Midnight Current. Check out more of their work on SoundCloud. For more about us and to catch up on every episode of Pod Candy, head over to podcandypodcast.com. You can also find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. See you next time.
Pod Candy!